through me, open me up, do your surgical work in me until I see like you see. Pierce through me, cut through me, open me up, do your surgical work in me till I see like you see. Take away every spiritual glaucoma. I need to see. I don't want to see men like trees. I need to see. We don't want to see men like trees. We need to see.
Lord, we thank you. We praise you, Lord. Lord, we thank you. We praise you, Lord, for your goodness, your mercy, and your grace. When we look at life and when we look at what's going on in the world today, the thing that comes to my heart, the thing that comes to my mind is the blood is crying out from the ground. The blood is crying out from the ground. And when we look at life, the things that's going on in this world at this very moment, we must, as people of God, rise up with everything we got within us and go before the throne of grace, because something is going on in this world is very unusually demonic and wicked. Above all, this is a high level of wickedness, a high level of darkness, but we must look at ourselves because we are connected to God in a very strong way. In other words, to diminish, to put out the fire of wickedness, because something is going on in this world that we must say to ourselves and look at this thing through the eyes of God, because the blood is crying out from the ground. Something is going on in this world that is so wicked. It is so wicked that people have caused it to become a part of their daily lives, looking at it as a common daily thing, a daily activity. In other words, they incorporate it into their lives and figure like, this is the way it is. This is the way I should live. This is the thing I should accept. This is the thing I have to deal with. This is the thing I have to walk with. This is the thing that I have to see, but not see. Witness, but what not witness. That's why we must come to ourselves and look at this thing through the eyes of God, because something is going on in this world that's a high level of wickedness, The blood is crying from the ground. In other words, what do you see? What do you see? When you look at this world, what do you see? In other words, how are you feeling right now? What are you thinking right now? What are you thinking right now? Because this wickedness is so wicked that this is one point in one stage in life, one phase in life, that I think the majority of the world see the wickedness, but some see it as trying to glorify it in a way that they want the world to accept it the way it is. And another portion see it in a way, in other words, that's want to hide from it, not speak about it, not say anything about it. But you must look at this thing through the eyes of God. There are so many people is going through something right now, have been through something in the past, is going through something right now. And if things don't stop, it's going to continue to go through something in the future, because the blood is crying from the ground. In other words, the blood, the innocent blood, is crying from the ground for righteous justice to prevail, divine justice to prevail. Because there was an incident with Cain and Abel when Cain killed his brother. In other words, because of jealousy, resentment, and envy, took out his own brother. And when God confronted Cain about the situation, he had told him, your blood have cried out to me. In other words, Cain knew what he did was wrong, but in other words, his anger suffocated his heart, where he didn't even have no feelings about what he did. And if we look at the things that's going on today and look at the things that's going on in this world, something is definitely wrong, because people's minds are steeled with a hot iron. People's minds just don't care anymore, and they running around doing things. In other words, running around doing things in this world that's not normal. But you must understand, there's two bloods that's crying out in the world. There's a blood of forgiveness that's crying out, that come from the veins of Jesus. And you must understand, there's an innocent blood crying out for injustice, divine justice to prevail within this world. Because we must look at this thing through the eyes of God, because something is definitely wrong. And we must say to ourselves, we cannot accept this thing anymore. That's why we must come with everything we got within us. We must begin to go before God with everything within us. We must begin to find out what God wants to do about the situation with everything within us. We must get before God and find out, God, what do you want me to do? Because if you look at God and you sit with God, God will give you divine instructions and wisdom to go forth under the unction and the banner of the power of the Spirit of the Holy Ghost, to go forth and deal with the situations that's going on within this world. Because if we look at this thing, we can't never accept it as normal. We can't never accept it as, okay, this is a daily activity, in other words, because we must understand it's going from state to state to state, continent to continent. You must understand this thing is moving so violently. It's moving with such an anger, moving with such a force that it's begin to suffocate cities where the authorities of the cities in these world can't even deal with the situation, because there's an overflow of wickedness to the point where you have to send military, you have to send the forces that really is really designed to go out and fight other nations, fight other countries, to fight other continents, to protect our own continent, our own country. But if you look at things have got so far out of control where the only power I think and I believe in my spirit, that would begin to rise up and deal with the situations that's going on in this world is the power of the Spirit of God. In other words, he that is in us is greater than he that's in the world. Because the things that's going on in this world, we must see this thing through the eyes of God. We must look at this thing through the eyes of God. In other words, we must connect with the heartbeat of God. We must connect with the mind and the spirit, the continent, the attributes, the character of God. Because once we begin to merge with the sincere oneness of God, it's going to penetrate our spirit, our soul, and our bodies and our minds, and it's going to force us out into an uncomfortable position to deal with the situations that's going on within this world, because something is definitely wrong. You must understand, the leaders of this world, not putting anyone down, but the leaders of this world, in other words, they got their hands full in so many words that to the point they are confused their own selves really too much, don't know how to handle the situations, but they handle it the best way they can. And I thank God for them, because if they wasn't there, just imagine how the wickedness would be going forth in a way that you can't even just imagine if they wasn't there. But by them being there, they suppressing the situation to a certain point. Praise God. But you must understand, even now it done overflowed to a level. It done went out to a level. It done exploded to a level. In other words, that people running all over the world really don't know what to do. And you must understand this, because you must understand the world is fighting this thing with the world. In other words, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. And we must look at this thing through the eyes of God, because there's an anger that's flowing through this world. And it's like it'll jump in somebody, rise up in somebody, and they'll do some things. And next thing you know, some of it accepted as this the right thing to do, even though they know it's the wrong thing to do. Some of it accepted like, what did I do? Some of it accepted like, man, did I really do that? Some of it accepted like, man, did you see what happened? What I did? I had no idea what I did. I was able to do it because it never have entered my mind. But you must understand, for our struggles are not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, spiritual forces of wickedness and high places, rulers of darkness, because there's so much going on in this world that we got to get to the point where we got to run to the altar of God. Because if you really look deeply in this thing, the enemy done set up altars in neighborhoods. He done set up wicked altars in cities. He done set up wicked altars in countries and nations, even in continents. In other words, and he's laying back and he choosing hearts to work on these altars, to move according to these different demonic altars. And that's why we must get to the point where we got to begin to tear down these wicked altars and bring the altar of God to suffocate, smother, and tear down the altars of the wicked one. Because the things that's going on in this world, when you cause yourself to not mourn on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis about it, and when you cause yourself where your heart is cold and your mind don't feel anything, beware, because the enemy is close to your heart. In other words, he's riding with you, he's walking with you. In other words, he's standing by you. In other words, he's conversating with you. Because if you don't feel anything that's going on in this world, and tears don't come to your eyes, you don't go through some kind of emotional breakthrough, some kind of emotional fall down, some kind of emotional thing throughout the week or daily or monthly, you got to pay attention and beware and find out how close are you to the wicked one, and how close is the wicked one to you. The blood is crying from the ground. The blood is crying from the ground. You must understand, the devil is taking envy. He taking jealousy. He taking envy. He taking these things and he using it to destroy, kill, steal, and destroy. That's why we must come to an understanding in life and see these things as it is. Yes, we see the wickedness that's going forth on a daily basis, but you must understand, we must get to a point where we got to reach down deep in our spirit and find some place to get with God and ask God, Lord, what is it that you want me to do? Because you must understand, God is doing something. Don't think all this stuff is going on and all this wickedness is just flowing and going throughout and parading itself throughout this world, where God, Jesus Christ, the anointed one, you must understand, is not doing something. You better believe there's something going on behind the scenes. Are you with it or are you not with it? In so many words, when they was crucifying Christ, if they had only knew what they was doing, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. In other words, God was working behind the scenes. You must understand that thievery is on an all-time high. And it's so strange that when Jesus died, the first one he took to heaven with him was a thief. Because you had one thief who had hope in him that was next to him on a cross, and you had another thief that rejected him. In other words, you had humanity rising up in a man to accept a spiritual reality that I want to be with Christ. And you had a stubborn spirit of wickedness that didn't even care about going to the place with Jesus. But you must understand the same thing is happening in this world, because you must see the things as it is. A lot of these people that's doing these things in this world, they do not know what they are doing. They do not know what they are doing. It said, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. God's blood cries out for forgiveness. You got innocent blood crying out for divine justice. You got the wicked one moving throughout this world trying to take the blood, because life is in the blood, from people. Because he hates the fact what Jesus did on the cross. He hated. So he moving with wicked rage and wicked speed to destroy any and everything that's in his way, any and everything that he could see, any and everything that he could touch. That's why we must get to the point with God, because something is going on in this world. What is wrong? What is wrong? It's so many heavy hearts. Don't you? It's so many heavy hearts within this world. Are your heart heavy because of what's going on in this world? Are your mind tired of what's going on in this world? Are you walking around in a great fear of what's going on in this world? Are you scared? Are you worried of what's going on in this world? You must understand, worry is a deep word. In other words, worry is a word that means self-strangulation. And there's so many people are self-strangulating themselves because they refuse to really come to God and find out about the power, find out about the mercy, the goodness, and the grace of God. So they deal with the situations they self and worry about the situations they self with high-speed thoughts that's consuming them in a way where they just want to just give up on life. But that's why we must come to an understanding in life that there is an intense level of spiritual wickedness that's happening in this world. In other words, there is a divine spiritual warfare that's going on right before our eyes. And that's why we must get to the point and find out what it is, what God got for your life, because something is going on in this world. Cain killed Abel years ago, his brother, and his brother blood was crying out. The innocent blood was crying out for justice, for justice. And if you look at today, think about all the stuff that's going on. The people who lost their lives and their blood is crying out from the ground for justice, for justice. And we thank God for the authorities. We thank God for the authorities. But it's something that needs to move in a deeper way than the natural authority that we are looking at. It's the authority of Christ, the greater one that's living in us.
There is nothing you cannot do.
It's something going on.
Nothing too hard for
It's something
you.
going on.
There is nothing you cannot do.
What have you done?
Jesus.
God is asking you, what have you done? What have you done? What have you done to that brother? What have you done to that sister? What have you done to that child? What have you done to that elderly person? What have you done? What have you done? What have you done? What have you done? Because God said their blood has been crying out to him for justice. And one thing about God, you must understand, he is called the righteous judge. So either way it goes, God is going to deal with the situation. You must understand, some way, somehow throughout life, if it's not in this world, it's going to be after this world. But the righteous judge will deal with the situation. That's why God, even though the things that you have been doing was out of order, what have you been doing? But God's blood is still crying out for forgiveness for you. In other words, he still loves you in so many words. God hates the sin, but he loves the sinner. God still loves you. That's why you got the opportunity to turn around today.
Nothing too hard for you.
You got an opportunity to change your life today.
There is nothing.
You have an opportunity to change your life today.
Oh, your name is.
When the crowd go out next time, don't you go. When they sit at the table of wickedness and plan, don't you sit there. When they discuss the things in the next plot, the scheme, don't do it. In other words, let God use you to turn your friends around, because so many people are losing their lives, and the penal system is constantly just growing and growing and expanding in huge amounts in so many ways. And that's why we must get to the point where we must go before the altar for the penal system, the prison system. Go before God for the medical system. Go before God, because it's something that's going on in this world where we cannot allow ourselves to accept it anymore, because we must get to the point where we have to connect with the heartbeat of God, because God is crying about the things that he has seen in this world. In other words, Jeremiah said, call unto me, and I will answer thee, and I will show thee great and unsearchable hidden things that you do not know. Brother, call unto God. Call unto God. You did some ruthless things. Don't go back out there. Leave it alone. Call unto God. You did some devastating things. Call unto God. You did some things that you yourself did not even imagine you was able to do. Call unto God. Because you must understand, for we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities and rulers, spiritual forces of wickedness in high places, rulers of darkness. You dealing with something that's deeper than yourself. Don't go back out there. Don't go back out there. Don't you want to see your family? Don't you want to see yourself at 40 and 50? Don't you want to see yourself graduating, walking across the stage? Don't you want to see yourself as a Marine, Army officer, Air Force officer, Navy officer? You know, don't you want to see yourself as a Coast Guard, as a police officer, as a minister, as a firefighter? Do you want to see yourself as a community activist? Don't let the enemy steal what God has for you. Don't let the enemy just strangle your life up out of you. In other words, you must get to the point where you must do something about it. You must do something about it. Because whether you believe it or not, the enemy got your coattails. In other words, he got your coattail right there. And his next move is to steal, kill, and destroy. Don't let him have his way with your life. Don't let him have his way with your life. God has given you a promise today. He said, call unto me, and I will answer you, and I will show you great and unsearchable hidden things that you do not know. This is your way out. Call unto God. A promise is being laid out right before you, because as many of you are not happy. When I look at the screen and see people running around and doing all these things, I see you're not happy. You're not pleased. The blood is crying from the ground. How can we ignore it? There's innocent blood crying, saying, I didn't do anything. I was just walking to the store. I didn't do anything. I was just sitting in my car. I didn't do anything. I was just relaxing. I didn't do anything. I was just in the park with my family. I didn't do anything. I was just going to the store. I didn't do anything. I was just sitting on the bench. I didn't do anything. I was just riding on the red line. I didn't do anything. I was sitting on the blue line. I didn't do anything. I was waiting for the airplane. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. Don't go back out there. Don't go with them next time. Matter of fact, talk 2 or 3 or 4 of them not to go with it. You have the power to do it. Kadosha. You have the power to do it. Yeko boshaka de alamandela boko sharabahandela boko sharabahandela makatoyo. Yeko boshaka de alamandela boko shiabalandela makatoyo. You have the power to do it. Just do it. The next move that's wicked, that's about to be made right before your mind and your eyes. In other words, reject it, and God will give you the power to walk away from it. In other words, and will raise you up to deal with the situations that you've been dealing in for years. That's why it's so important that you look at this thing through the eyes of God, because God has been crying out, in other words, forgiving you. In other words, Jesus' blood's been crying out, saying, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. The person that you took out, in other words, the things that you've been going, you got God over here praying for you. In other words, saying, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. That's why you must come to an understanding with God. The first one who went into heaven with God was the thieves, the murderers, the thieves. That's why you must get to the point in life that to ask God to help you. In other words, to ask God to be with you, because things are going on in this world, and the only way those that's in your circle going to make it out is going to be by your mouth. It's going to be by the wisdom that's going to come through you. It's going to be by the power that's going to come to you. So God said, now therefore go, and I will speak by thy mouth, and I will teach thee what thou shalt say. And I will teach thee what thou shalt say. I will teach thee what thou shalt say.
Do your surgical work in me until I see.
Don't go back out there.
Pierce through me, cut through me.
Don't go back out there.
Do your surgical work in me.
When that spirit of jealousy, envy, and resentment try to come and connect with you, deal with it through the power of talking to God.
I need to see. I don't want to see men like trees.
Don't go back out there.
We don't want to see men like trees.
Don't go back out
We need
there.
to see. We need to see. Pierce through me.
Don't go back out there.
Cut through me. Open me up. Do your surgical work in me until I see like you see. Pierce through me. Cut through me. Open me up. Do your surgical work in me till I see like you see. Take away every spiritual glaucoma. I need to see. I don't want to see men like trees.